What is going on, Cuse Nation? Welcome to yet another edition of Orange Heat. My name's Giovanni Heater, as always, and thank you for joining me. Today we are joined by former Syracuse Basketball Big Man, none other than number 21, Arinze Onuaku. Arinze, how you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Thank you so much for joining here, man.
Thanks for having me.
I have to ask the typical interviewer question these days, you know, with the whole virus going around. What are you doing to keep yourself busy?
Still working out, but, doing it outside mostly, either on the field or on the track. Just, trying to keep the body at least like 60%. So when we get the gyms back open, we can get back to being in full shape.
Absolutely. So are you playing right now? Not obviously right now, but before the whole virus and the plan after the virus.
Yeah, I was actually about to leave again right before the virus hit. So this is delaying everything. But yeah, once the virus is over, we'll figure out. The whole world is in shock right now, so nobody really knows what's next.
Absolutely.
So we'll figure it out once everything settles.
So what was your first introduction to the game of basketball?
I would say maybe around like fifth grade. I played in fifth grade, but I just took it, I didn't take it seriously at all. I was always the tallest guy in the class. So, I just kind of like a hobby to do. We went and played basketball. We played on the basketball team at my Catholic school. But when it really got more and more serious was my sixth grade year. I changed school, and my teacher was actually the coach of the Boys and Girls Club team. So she asked me if I wanted to play basketball. I said, sure, I'll do it. And then ever since then, we practiced a couple times a week. She would take me to practice, take me to the games. And that's when I slowly started falling in love with the game.
That's awesome. So were you ever a Syracuse fan at all growing up? I know you're from Lanham, Maryland. Watching it on TV, were you into NBA, college, and were you a Syracuse fan at all?
No, I wasn't a fan growing up. It was all Maryland mostly, and North Carolina as well. So,
okay. So you were a fan of the Terps and the Tar Heels in the college area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what was your first real introduction to Syracuse then?
My AAU team, DC Assault, was started by one of the former Syracuse coaches, Troy Weaver. And he started recruiting me in when I was in high school, but he left and joined the Thunder at the time. And then Rob Murphy took over for him. But I knew him because he's from the D.C. area as well. And when I wanted to go to Syracuse, even though he left, he told me to go there and make sure that they take good care of you. So I ended up committing and going.
So you made the move from Duval High School in Lanham to Episcopal High School in Virginia, right? So what went into making that decision?
It was really my mother. A public school, it doesn't really have a lot of structure. That private school, it was a boarding school as well. So just more structure, it's only like 15 people in the class. At Episcopal, as Duval is probably 30, 35 people in the class. So just more structure and, more accountability.
Did that have anything to do with basketball at all or in recruiting, or was that just pretty much a personal thing?
No, when I was coming up, recruiting was more on the AAU circuit, and I played with DC Assault, was the best team in the area. So everywhere we went, we had hundreds of scouts, hundreds of college scouts there watching our games. We had guys, pretty much about maybe 7, 8 guys on my team went high major D1. So.
Okay, so you kind of, you started us into this conversation a little bit talking about the AAU circuit. Can you really walk me through your recruiting process? Like what schools were involved? When did Syracuse get involved? You talked a little bit with Trey, but can you go in depth with that?
To be honest, I had too many schools to mention. I think the only schools I really didn't have that I wanted, I never got Duke, and then North Carolina came like really, really late. But outside of that, the recruiting was so crazy. My mom was actually getting frustrated because she wanted me to pick a school because the phone was ringing all day, nonstop. The letters coming in every day, all day. So once your name is out there, you're going to get the buzz from everywhere, and they're all going to be calling you.
So who were your final three throughout that process? Did you have, most guys start to narrow it down nowadays. Did you have your schools besides Syracuse that were definitely on your radar?
Yeah, I narrowed it down to Georgia, Maryland, Pittsburgh, and Syracuse. I think that was my final four.
Awesome. So why Syracuse in the end? Was there a defining moment that you just kind of woke up one day and you were like, that's the place I got to go?
Um, I think it's some. I mean, when my recruiting visit went well. From talking to Boeheim and the assistant coaches, and just seeing the type of talent that was coming in, that played a big part. Then I didn't want to stay home. I wanted to see something different, so that played another part. But I think the ultimate decision was just knowing that I can go there and learn and then get some playing time, and as well as being around great players.
During your visit, what did they take you to? What part of the year was it? Did you get to go to a football game, a big basketball game? I've always been really interested with the recruiting process.
Yeah, usually they take you there during football season because once basketball season starts, you're going to go play wherever you're playing at.
Right.
So we came during football season. We went to a football game, and that's when the weather is good as well. So you don't get to see the 16 feet of snow up there every day. But yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, so what was your attitude when you're stepping on the Syracuse campus?
As far as what?
As far as just like your mentality, like some of the players that I've talked to, former players, they thought they were, big man on campus and they were really humbled when they got on, or was it the complete opposite where you were like, man, I got to get here. I'm the young guy and I have to prove myself.
I mean, I think that everybody coming from where they come from, they're always the man in their city.
Right.
So it's like when you get to college, everybody's the man wherever they're coming from. So when I first got there, the guys in front of me was Daryl Watkins and Terrence Roberts. They were juniors. So I remember the first day of practice, all the moves that worked in high school, they didn't work at all. So I remember I actually went back in the locker room after first practice, kind of sat there, and I was kind of in awe because I didn't know like if I didn't belong or if I didn't know if I made a mistake. But I always give a big credit to those two guys because they kind of helped shape my game a little bit and taught me the small things that helped me a lot in the long run.
So specifically, did guys like obviously Daryl Watkins, Terrence Roberts, Matt Gorman was there, Demetrius Nichols, did they really take you under their wing in teaching you because they were juniors and seniors in your freshman year?
No question, no question. They taught me, how to work. They were hard workers, so they taught me how to work, how to stay, come in early, stay after. So they teach you all the little things. What you got to do for coach, the type of things coach likes to get for you to get minutes. All the small things, the weight room work, all the little things that help you become a better basketball player.
Yeah, so in your freshman season, you appeared in 13 of 16 Big East Conference games. What role did you play on that team and in that family with a plethora of experienced guys that we just mentioned ahead of you?
Yeah, freshman year I ain't play much. That was like my first. That was my learning year, though. I got to see the type of competition these guys played in night out basis, and I learned a lot from Coach. Sitting next to Coach a lot, just learning the little things that he does over the time of the game, just to help the team win. So I would definitely say my freshman year was definitely a learning experience.
Awesome. So you had to sit out and medically redshirt your sophomore season at Syracuse due to undergoing a knee surgery. So what was that journey of getting back on the court the following season like?
Oh man, that was my first time ever having surgery in my life. So it was a very tough year for me. I mean, having basketball stripped for the whole year, it was very tough. But I stayed close to Brad Pike, and we continued to rehab and get my knee stronger. And after that, I was ready to go.
So how did you deal with that disappointment you said? Was there any kind of emotional mentality change at all for you, or it was just take care of yourself and get on the court ASAP?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's an everyday struggle. Every day you go in that training room, you don't want to do those exercises, but you gotta look forward to the bigger picture, and that's what I was able to do.
How were you able to still play an important role on that team, whether from a leadership standpoint or just really being a part of that family, even though you weren't able to hit the court with the guys every night?
Yeah, it was more being a part of the family. I mean, the guys kept me in, they kept me informed, coach kept me informed. And, the ultimate goal was I just wanted to see those guys win. So, I mean, I stuck around, I learned, and I learned a lot that helped me going into the next year.
Can you talk a little bit about that family feel and that camaraderie on these teams? And I'm not just talking about this specific season. Throughout your whole career, I mean, you were part of some phenomenal Syracuse basketball teams that'll go down in history. What goes into that?
Uh, I think we all wanted each other to be better. We were all young guys, and we knew at the end of the day the goal was to win. So if somebody thought somebody was slacking, they would tell them, or if somebody thought, they can help them in this area, they would tell them. So, I mean, everybody pushing everybody just to get better.
So you're talking about that pushing people to get better type thing. So what was your mentality going into your redshirt sophomore season and finally being able to play again?
Man, it was the best time of my life. I mean, I finally beat the rehab. I'm finally strong enough to play again. And then you gotta understand, I was starting with 4 All-Americans.
Yeah.
Eric Devendorf, Johnny, Paul, Dante. 4 All-Americans and me on the floor. So, I mean, I was just lucky to be out there with those guys.
Absolutely. Now, I talked to Scoop Jardine earlier this week, and for him coming back from injury, sitting out a year, he had a specific moment, and he just was really feeling it that night. He called it a scoop night, right? And it was a big game against California in the 2K Classic. They were a highly ranked team at that point. He dropped 22 points. Was there a specific moment or game for you coming back that you were just like, yeah, now I'm back in my groove. I belong on this team, and I'm a part of this?
I don't know if it was a moment, but I know that being able to play with those guys and, like a guy like Johnny Flynn, that's obviously the floor general. I mean, getting drop off dimes and dunks and things like that, and the dome going crazy. I mean, I just felt like we hit our stride so early, and the season just felt like it was free flowing ever since then.
3 times in your career, you were on the Big East All-Conference academic team, and you were made the athletic director's honor roll in all 6 years spent at Syracuse. So how were you able to balance being both a student and an athlete, especially with all the traveling on the road and multiple games a week?
What's funny is, so that Episcopal High School, that second high school I went to, like that's a very high level high school. Like a lot of those people leave and they go to Yales and the Harvards and those type
Oh,
of things.
really?
Yeah. So when I got to Syracuse, I learned a lot of things in high school to help me in college. Time management and things like that. And Syracuse, they help you out with the tutors as well. Study hall, all the above. So I was able to balance it.
Being a student athlete, are there other opportunities? Do you have tutors travel with you on the road? Is it different from being just a typical student at a university?
Oh, no question, no question. I mean, you gotta understand, like, your number one love is always basketball. So you putting so much time into the game that some players might forget the academic side, but you got to do that as well to play. I mean, there's many players that go to college and never touch the floor because they can't get the grades. So,
Absolutely.
so yeah, just having that balance.
Awesome. So altering, the conversation back to basketball a little bit. What was so special about the Big East? You got to play in some of the best years of that conference, all the Big East tournament runs, everything like that. So what was so special about that conference that many people believe there will be nothing like it, and there never has been anything like it?
Man, it was 16 teams, and any given night you can get beat. I remember we was one of the best teams, and I think it was DePaul. DePaul was one of the worst teams in the Big East. And I don't remember if they beat us or they almost beat us, but like, man, you couldn't sleep. Like, I mean, that's the time where we play like Sunday, Monday games, and it's just like, it's back to back top 10 opponents, and it's just like, man, it's like we just finished getting these guys out the way, but, it's no time to rest because somebody else is coming in the building.
So there's no days off.
Definitely no days off.
How different was it playing your non-conference schedule, which at the time, looking back, you guys kind of stacked up a little bit more than they do now these days, a little more challenging non-conference. How different was it, the non-conference portion of the schedule versus the Big East?
Yeah, it's almost like the warm-up. It's almost like the warm-up because, even in the Big East, the refs are calling it different. It's a more physical game.
Mm-hmm.
You got guys 7 feet, 6'11" coming in every night. You got lottery picks on the floor every night. it's a show every single night. So I would say non-conference is more like the warm-up, even though we did play tough teams, but it's nothing like that conference play.
So nothing would compare. You guys played some big teams, big names. You played Kansas one year in their hometown, Kansas City. Nothing
Mm-hmm.
compares to playing the Big East, though. There's just something special about it.
It's just something special. It's different. But yeah, I know you're talking about that 2K Classic we played against Kansas. That was a big win for us. But it's just something about that Big East, man. Something about the coaches don't like each other, the players don't like each other. The refs are always in turmoil because the crowd is going crazy. It's just a great atmosphere to be
in. Have you seen that 30 for 30 Requiem for the Big East?
No, I haven't.
No, you'll have to look it up. It's
what is it called?
It's called Requiem for the Big East. ESPN made it. And it's really, really cool. You know what the 30 for 30 documentaries are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they made one. It came out a couple of years ago. Boeheim's in it, everything. It takes you how the Big East was formed throughout everything in the Big East. It's really, really cool. And it starts where in 2013, the last time Syracuse played Georgetown in the Garden, the last Big East tournament, the real one, it starts there and kind of works backwards. And it's the center and focus around the documentary is the Syracuse-Georgetown rivalry. So it's really cool. Yeah. You'll have to check that out. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, now, who did you look forward to playing most every year? Was it Georgetown? Was it Villanova? Was it UConn?
All the above. All the above. I think the biggest rivalry was definitely Georgetown, and me being a kid from Washington, D.C., Maryland area. That was always big on the schedule. But, man, 16 teams, like it was no rest. Every night, and there was so many different styles of play. You got Georgetown running the Princeton offense, then you got Louisville that's going to press the whole game, then you got Villanova that's usually 4-guard offense. It's a different look every single night, so you constantly making adjustments.
Did you sincerely feel, maybe hatred's the wrong word, but grudges against some of these teams?
Oh, no question. No question. I mean, and Boeheim sparked it because the rivalry between Big John and Boeheim, Pitino and Boeheim. I mean, he doesn't want to lose. At all costs, he wants to win. So that fuels the fire in you.
Did any of the players, I mean, you played on some of the same teams as some of the most charismatic guys in Syracuse history. Devendorf's on that list. So did any of the players, yourself included, kind of have grudges with each other? Was it like, I play lacrosse, and there's guys that you kind of look for every year. You play them once or twice a year, and you're like, okay, we might only meet this one time, but we're going at it.
Oh, no question. I mean, you're trying to win that battle every time, like I said, I go back to Georgetown. I mean, I know when I go home in the summer, it's going to be the talk. If I lose that battle to Roy Hibbert, I'm going to hear about it. So, I mean, you definitely got those days checked off like, okay, this is a big game. I got to show up.
So where was the toughest place to play on the road? I mean, you had a lot of games at the Garden. Don't get me wrong, the Carrier Dome's amazing. But where was the hardest place to play on the road?
Some would say Rutgers because it's like
really?
It's a smaller gym and it kind of on top of you. Pittsburgh was crazy.
Oakland Zoo, yeah.
They were crazy. I'm talking about like in the warm-ups, they literally can pretty much touch you while you're warming up, and they're yelling things at you that you don't want to hear for sure.
Right.
That Oakland Zoo was definitely crazy.
You're not the only guy to say that. Everybody that I've interviewed, I've been really lucky lately. I've had Scoop Jardine, Eric Devendorf. Very happy to have you on. And everybody said Pittsburgh. So it must be true. It must just be something about the Oakland Zoo.
And I can't forget West Virginia, too.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's funny, too, because that's a football rivalry. But it still transpires on the basketball court.
Yeah, they don't play about their team over there.
So switching gears, the actual opposite of playing on the road, what was it like playing inside the Carrier Dome? Full house, 30,000 fans. What's that like?
Oh, man, it's amazing. I remember the first time when I checked in as a freshman, I didn't even want the basketball because I was just, adrenaline pumping, jitters going. I mean, it's crazy. But, like, I mean, that home court advantage is second to none. I mean, you really got to go there days before and shoot because the backdrop is different. I mean, it's just a whole different feel to the Dome. Like, you're never going to get a basketball court set in the middle of a football field until you play ball. So a lot of people come in there. I remember one year we was down 15 early, I think, to Georgetown at home, and we ended up winning the game. And I feel like it was the crowd that did it. Like, a lot of people can't stand that 30,000. Sometimes we're getting 35,000, just all noise just for you.
Yeah. Was there any specific games you remember? I think while you were there, it might have been a Villanova game or a Georgetown game. There was some court storming. Was there any specific games that you can remember that were just more special than anything else? College game day, anything like that?
Man, it's so many. It's so many because, like you said, we had a couple of court stormings for sure when we upset teams. And then, like my senior year when we were number one in the country and, we were beating some of the best teams in the country. It's so many, man. I was just lucky to be able to play with the players I played with. Like, I'm so lucky. I mean, so many McDonald's All-Americans, so many, NBA prospects, so many high talented guys, and it rubbed off on me in so many different ways. So I was definitely lucky to be around them guys.
Absolutely. So you were playing the big spot on the inside, right? The Big East is known for being the most physical league in college basketball. You touched upon this a little bit earlier, but can you speak about that?
I mean, you got to be the anchor. I mean, definitely in the 2-3 zone. I mean, the center is the anchor. You're the guy that's talking to everybody. You got to see the whole floor. And then, you got guys coming, like I said, you got bigs, talented bigs coming in night out. Guys that are big time, DeJuan Blair's, Roy Hibbert's, Greg Monroe's. I mean, it's so and Heron Goldy's, and the list goes on. So, I mean, that center spot is one of the toughest spots to play in that Big East.
This is kind of a question. It's not even on my sheet, but I figure asking it to you. You were 6'9", right? But a muscular body at that. Syracuse seems to lately have kind of strayed away from that, and they've gone for the lengthier 7-foot-plus guys with a really long wingspan. How much is to be said for having a big body on the inside with maybe not as much height compared to that length? Because I feel like Syracuse is getting dominated on the inside the last couple of years, and they're kind of lacking that.
Well, one thing you got to realize is, I mean, I do play basketball, but I've always been built like a football player. So I mean, that wasn't something that was. I mean, that's just kind of how it was built. I mean, growing up. But as far as what they're doing now, most basketball players are slender as it is. They're slim guys. But I just feel like if you have a slim guy, of course you want to put weight on him, get him stronger, all that. But I mean, I was different because when I came in as a freshman, I was already built this way. Right. Everything we did in the weight room was lean muscle mass. So some people's body can't take that extra weight. I don't know the guys right now if their body can even stand that extra weight. So you just got to try to find a balance. You can be slim and still be very effective. It's just you got to find a balance.
Do you think coaches' recruiting has changed at all? It seems like he's shied away from the big man center. Or do you just think everything's changed since joining the ACC and that's the reason for it?
Well, I mean, you understand it's hard to find big men that are skilled. I mean, that's number one. A lot of bigs can't. The saying is a lot of bigs can't walk and chew gum at the same time. So it's not easy to find. And I know right now Syracuse hasn't been winning as much, so it's not the biggest draw right now. As far as schools.
Right.
But if they get back to winning, I'm sure they'll be able to find a lot of big men that can produce.
Well, you talked about walking and chewing gum at the same time, and you certainly had no problem playing both offense and defense. You were always grounded, and you knew what you were doing. So what was the most memorable game that you ever played in?
I would say the most memorable game, definitely the 6 overtime game. I mean, definitely was not one of my best games, but just my most memorable game. you can't forget that 6 overtime game. I mean, I think I fouled out in the second overtime, and it just felt like nobody was leaving that night. You know, it felt like every time you looked up, the score was tied. That's something just crazy. I've never been a part of anything like that, and that was one of those nights that people will never forget.
Mm-hmm. So in the 6 overtime, Kemba Walker fouled you off the ball on a screen, and he sent you to the free throw line with 2 minutes to go in the ball game. You were 1 for 16 in the last 6 games up to that point, right? So this is what Bill Raftery and Jay Billis had to say, and I could totally say the words, but I feel like it wouldn't do it as much justice as this quick little clip. One second. Sorry about that. Yeah. Here we go.
Second foul.
Well, the sad part for Syracuse is who's going to the free throw line, you know?
Yeah. Arinze Onuaku. Children at home, cover your eyes. 0 for 3 from the line tonight.
Jay Billis has the nerve to say, children at home, cover your eyes. Now, Jay Billis, a Duke guy, and that's always driven every Syracuse fan crazy, but you silenced them, and you dropped 2 free throws with 2 minutes left to go in regulation in that ball game. Probably one of the biggest moments shooting free throws you've experienced. Can you just walk me through what's going on in your head in that moment?
I wasn't having a good game, so my whole thing was, this can be some very big free throws. So I just try to take my time and make them. But the funny is, before you played the clip, I already knew what I was going to say because I've seen the game. So it's just funny. But yeah, man, that game is second to none. I mean, in my career, period. That game definitely goes down top 2, top 3 games I've ever been a part of.
Awesome. So, you went on to play West Virginia the next night. Many people forget about that. And then that West Virginia game also goes into overtime as well. What is that like? How fatigued are you guys? What's the mindset there?
And we are so tired. I tell everybody that we lost the game to Louisville. We lost it in the second half. And I think the only reason we lost that game is because we were literally dead. We had nothing left, from 6 overtime to playing again, another overtime game to playing a team that presses the whole game,
Yes.
So we really, as a team, we just had nothing left. And Boeheim wasn't even mad at us because he knew that we gave it our all and we just were gassed.
Absolutely. Your senior season was absolutely phenomenal. 30-5 record on the year. 2 of those losses came after your season-ending injury in the Big East Tournament quarterfinals against Georgetown. Can you take me to that moment? What's going on inside your head as you hurt your quad?
I have been having problems with my quad all year. Mm-hmm. So, but it's my senior year. I don't want to sit out. I'm eyeing the NBA as well. And I'm on a team that's doing very well. So, I'm doing things just to, to maintain it, knowing that eventually I'm going to have to have surgery or get something done to it. But, at that moment, I can say I was surprised, but I really wasn't surprised. It just happened to happen at a very bad time because I'm thinking that I'm at least make it through the season and be able to have something done after. So, at the time that it happened, it was just terrible time.
What were the week or two like between that game and then the NCAA tournament when, it was still a question mark whether you were going to be a go for the NCAA tournament? You're back home in Syracuse. They're obviously trying to get you to a point where you can play the next week. What's going on in Syracuse that week?
Well, everybody knew, at least the coaching staff knew that I wouldn't play anymore. I had a fully ruptured quad. But what was put out pretty much in the media was like, he's working his way back. And that was for the morale of the team pretty much. Mm-hmm. So just trying to say win one more game, AO will be back. Win one more game, AO will be back. And we just hope that the guys will keep winning because, now we go into the NCAA tournament, it's one and done. So the whole goal is to keep the morale of the team to think, if we win one more game, AO's coming back. If we win more, AO's coming back. So that was the whole point of that.
So the coaches knew you weren't going to be coming back, but the rest of the team didn't?
Right. For the most part, the team didn't know. The team thought that, I would be able to come back, but they just didn't know when. Exactly. They didn't know that I was fully done. Like, they didn't know that the surgery was coming very soon.
What was it like sitting on the bench with absolutely no control as to what's happening on the court throughout the NCAA tournament, because a run was still made to the Sweet 16?
Man, I just remember when we lost. I think I haven't cried so hard in my life after that game when we lost. I mean, sitting in the locker room, I think it's a picture online actually, but it's like a towel over my locker because the media was in there and I couldn't contain myself. I'm just thinking everything just hit me at once. You're about to have surgery, your college career is over, you could have won a national championship. Everything's just hit me at once. So I would say that was probably one of the most crazy. That was probably the most devastating time of my life. I mean, so far. I mean, basketball wise, dealing with all that.
Absolutely. Were you still able to almost help coach the team during that time at all?
Yeah, for sure. Being a leader of the team, being a senior on the team, I was definitely able to coach and help the bigs, especially the bigs that didn't play as much and got more time. With me being off the floor.
So I asked this same question here earlier this week to your former teammate, Scoop Jardine. His answer was very simple. He said, hell yes. Many Syracuse fans believe that team, you, Jardine, Trish, Jackson, Routens, Joseph, Johnson, Jones, Sutherland, the list goes on and on. Many believe that you guys were so good that you were bound for a national championship. So if it weren't for you being injured in that Georgetown game, do you believe that Syracuse squad would have won the national championship that year?
I mean, no question. I mean, you got to think about even the 2003 team that won it. They weren't the favorites to win it, but they ended up winning it. We were the favorites. We were clearly the best team in the country, clearly. So I don't think it's anything that would stop us from winning it that year.
Awesome. So, Arinze, do you have a specific favorite moment in an orange jersey? I know you talked about the 6 overtime game, but is there a specific moment, a dunk, anything in an orange jersey that just really recollects with you?
Me personally? I'm not sure if I have a certain moment because like we talked about, it was so, I mean, like I said, night in, night out. Like it was so much. Like that experience is second to none. I'm talking about from, games, Dick Vitale walking on the floor, shaking everybody's hands before the game, from, even when I was early in my career, we played a UConn team, with I think it was 5 first-round picks, Rudy Gay, and you remember that whole squad. So I mean, it's so much, man. It's so much. When you think about it, the talent that I had on my team, but the talent that we had to play against every night, it was just amazing.
Can you talk about your professional career a little bit? After Syracuse, you spent some time in the NBA, and you also had a lot of success overseas. So what was that like for you, and how did that differ from your days in college?
I mean, the pros is totally different. It becomes a full-time job. And you got to find a way to feed your family. I think after I got back from my surgery as a senior, then it was the lockout. So that was the NBA lockout, and I went to Lithuania and played. And I think that was the biggest shock for me. I'm going to a country where nobody speaks English. It's very cold. You're away from your family and friends. My head coach didn't even speak English. I would only be able to talk to assistant coach.
Really?
And I think that was the biggest shock for me. Like you're so used to having things so regular in the basketball that when they send you away to a place where, you don't really know where you're going. You're just going based on, the contract that you signed. But I think that was the biggest shock to me. And I think it shook me up. It shook me up. And I think that's when I left there and I came back. That's when I went to the NBA D-League. And I was like, well, if things are going to be like this, I want to at least be able to go out and say I chased my dream, And, most guys are able to work out for NBA teams as a senior, but, I was hurt at the time, so I couldn't do any NBA draft workouts. And I just didn't want to live with the thought that, I mean, shoulda, coulda, woulda. You know, what if I tried to make the NBA? What would happen? So that's why I spent that time in the D League, just, you know, chasing my dream.
Absolutely. In the summer of 2018, we had the opportunity to see you hit the court again in orange for Boeheim's Army in that whole TBT tournament. So can you speak about what that experience was like?
Oh man, it's a great experience. It's crazy because, you know, like I mean, I was 8 years removed from school. I mean, and a lot of guys, I mean, we're so much older. I mean, we talk about the stuff we did in college. We talk about how the stupid things we did in college, how young we were, you know, and now everybody's mature. Some people married, some people got kids. So it's a totally different feel and a totally different atmosphere, but it's great. It's great to come back and see guys that you play with or guys that played before you or after you, and just, you know, like you said, it's back to being a family environment.
You talked a little bit about, you know, your days in college, maybe having a lot of fun, stuff like that. So what were those days like off the court? Who were you closest with? Who were your closest friends? Just off the court type stuff with those guys.
I was definitely close with Eric. Eric was my roommate all my years except my senior year. And in my senior year, I roomed with Wesley and Chris Joseph. So, but as far as players, man, we were just a tight group. I mean, we did everything together. I mean, every time you saw us, it'd be 10 guys together. That's just how we did things. We did everything together. So, I mean, the whole group was tight-knit.
I'll never forget, it's in a video. I believe it was when you guys were playing Georgetown, and you had won it in overtime, and it was at the Dome. And Johnny Flynn comes over to you, and you go like, and he's throwing punches at your stomach. So what was your relationship, you being a big man, with your point guard, Johnny Flynn?
Oh, man, Johnny was an incredible player. I mean, so talented, as you know, from being the sixth pick in the draft. I mean, so talented, but I mean, just humble. I mean, just knowing that he knew that he needed me and I knew that I needed him. So, you know, he would just try to make plays to help me out, give me easy dunks, easy finishes, and I'm trying to set great screens for him to get great looks. So, I mean, like I said, we had a great chemistry.
Do you remember the night you shattered the backboard at Manley Fieldhouse? Can you talk about that just for a quick second?
I remember the night. It happened so quick. I mean, the goal was to go out there and do a regular Midnight Madness, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's an all-star game. No defense is being played, all the above. And I think I got the rebound and threw it to Paul, and he threw a lob back to me, and I dunked it. And, like, before you know it, my feet were on the ground. So I'm like, this isn't regular because I don't dunk and my feet are on the ground. and all I see is glass shattering. I'm just running out the way. It was crazy. I still to this day don't know what happened or how it happened, but it's just crazy. I mean, I remember after that, Boeheim was telling me, because, you know, after that they went to play half court, and Boeheim was like, "Hey, yo, you're in." I'm like, "Coach, I can't. I got glass cuts all over my neck and my arms. Like, I'm bleeding." And he's like, okay, go see the trainer, you know.
That's awesome. I think that's a moment a lot of Syracuse fans, not a lot know, but those that do, it's something special for sure. Now, Onuaku, a little bit of a question here. I don't know how you're going to be able to answer this one, but are we going to get to see you in an orange jersey again with this Boeheim's Army squad?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I'll figure it out. Like you said, they don't even know if they're going to have a TBT this summer based on this whole quarantine thing. So, I mean, for most basketball players, we're just trying to figure it out. I mean, once this stuff dies down, everybody's going to figure out what's next. So, not saying yes, not saying no. We got to wait and see.
Yeah, I'll be working with the TBT this summer on the media coverage, so I certainly hope to see you there, because this has been a phenomenal interview. Just a few more little things to talk about before we end her off here. But what are you up to now? I know you have the clothing line and everything, so why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
I started the clothing line actually last year when I was coming for the TBT. You know, when I signed up for the TBT, I had a lot of fans hitting my phone saying, you know, oh, we're so excited for you to come up. So I figured, okay, I'll put together some T-shirts and stuff, just for them, to wear at the games and, just to remember us. And, we did the autograph signing at the baseball stadium up there, and I had a table set up next to the autographs, and the fans pretty much took everything. So after that, I was like, oh, I might have something here. And then when I came home after TBT, people were texting me like, man, I didn't go to Syracuse, but, I like what you're doing. Do you have stuff for the everyday person? So that's when it clicked. And then, I slowly started making hoodies and T-shirts for the everyday person. And ever since then, it's slowly grown.
Awesome. Why don't you go ahead and tell people, I'll put it in the description and everything, but where they can find that website.
Okay, so the website is alstudio21.com. And AL Studio 21 is my Instagram page for the business as well. So, everything is on there, from the hoodies, the T-shirts to the mugs. Everything's available on there.
Awesome. Now, this is a question that I promised my dad I would ask you. Actually, two of them back to back. So first of all, what is your relationship like with your younger brother? He played his college ball at Louisville. And did you ever try to persuade him to consider Syracuse? I don't even know if Syracuse recruited him at all, but just kind of an interesting story there.
My relationship is amazing. That's the youngest. He's the youngest in the family. So I'm the first boy. He's the last boy.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to think about it. When he was really getting better at basketball, I wasn't around because I was in school and then I was a pro. But we talk all the time. As far as recruiting, Syracuse came late.
Mm-hmm.
Recruited him very late. And I didn't try to persuade him to go to Syracuse. I wanted him to have his own path and to make his own choice. So I told him if he wanted to go there, I'm 100% okay with it. But if he didn't, that's fine as well. And I think by the time Syracuse came in, he had already fell in love with Louisville. So I told him, go ahead and go there,
Absolutely. You can't fault him for that. Now, I don't know if you even know this, but you are in the NCAA basketball video games, and I'm not a big video game guy myself, but I've definitely played it a few times, and they made you a monster in that game. It's your senior year, NCAA 10, I believe it is. Have you ever played it yourself on a video game?
Yeah, we used to play the video games when they made them in college. We played them. I don't know what year they stopped making them, but
And that was the year. Your senior year was the year.
Yeah, we used to play them games all the time, actually.
That's cool. All right, last question for you here, and it's pretty simple, but this one's for the fans. What does Syracuse mean to you?
It means home. It means a place to call home, a place where I went from a boy to a man, a place that took me in, a place that showed me a lot. It means everything. And the fact that we can still go there back today and, people still show the same amount of love they did when I played, it's just a great place.
That's amazing. Arinze, thank you so much for joining me here today. It's really been a pleasure to interview you, and you had some great stories, insight. It was a pleasure.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Of course. For Arinze Onuaku, I'm Giovanni Heater, and we are out.